not because of elections, but because of decisions, battles, disasters, rebellions that happened inside individual parishes. Moments where, if one thing had gone differently, the Jamaica we know today might not exist. And most of those moments did not happen in Kingston. They happened in places many people barely talk about. Before we go further, drop your parish in the comments right now and tell us where you are watching from. Jamaica, USA, UK, Canada, because by the end of this, people from some parishes are going to start arguing. The day Jamaica almost stayed Spanish St. Mary, Rio Nuevo, 1658. 3 years after the English seized Jamaica in 1655, Spain came back. At Rio Nuevo in St. Mary, Spanish forces mounted their final serious attempt to retake the island. If they had succeeded, Jamaica's legal system, land ownership patterns, language, and religious identity might be Spanish today. This wasn't symbolic, it was decisive. The battle failed, Spain retreated, and English Jamaica began solidifying. That one St. Mary moment shaped centuries. The English legal structure, the plantation model, the eventual path to British emancipation debates. If Rio Nuevo had gone differently, Jamaica's entire identity would have shifted. And most people drive past that coastline without realizing it once carried the weight of national destiny. The land. The empire could not control Cockpit Country, Trelawney, St. Elizabeth, and St. James. Now imagine Jamaica without maroon autonomy. Imagine if the British had crushed them early. Cockpit Country made that impossible. Its steep limestone hills and sinkholes formed a natural fortress. Soldiers unfamiliar with the terrain were outmaneuvered. Sound traveled strangely. The Abing horn echoed through valleys like coded communication. The British signed treaties in 1739, not because they wanted peace, but because geography defeated them. If the Cockpit Country were flat, resistance would collapse. If resistance collapses, centralized colonial power tightens its grip. If power tightens, cultural autonomy shrinks. The land itself protected Jamaican identity. That wasn't luck. That was terrain rewriting power. The rebellion that shook London St. James, the Baptist War, 1831. Christmas, 1831. Sam Sharp, a deacon from St. James, leads what becomes the largest slave uprising in Jamaica's history. It spreads. Plantations burn. Panic spreads through the colonial elite. But here's the part many overlook. News of the rebellion has reached Britain. Lithographs circulate. Reports spread. Parliament debates intensify. The uprising in 3 years, slavery across the British Empire was abolished. If St. James had remained quiet, emancipation may have been delayed. That parish didn't just rebel, it accelerated history. But here's what many Jamaicans don't realize. One of the biggest turning points in modern Jamaica did not happen at independence. It happened in rural Jamaica. The fire that birthed modern politics Westmoreland, Frome, 1938. At the Frome Sugar Estate in 1938, labor unrest erupted. It wasn't isolated frustration. It was boiling economic pressure. Workers protested wages and conditions. The confrontation escalated. Gunfire followed. And suddenly, Jamaica's political awakening intensified. Trade unions strengthened. Political organization expanded. Leaders emerged. The modern two-party political structure traces its roots to this unrest. If Frome never ignites, Jamaica's political timeline would have shifted. A rural parish sparked a national awakening. The city, Savannah Lamar, 1780. In 1780, the sea did not just flood Savannah Lamar, it erased it. One of the deadliest hurricanes in Caribbean history struck. A tidal surge followed. Entire sections of the town were swallowed. But here's why this moment matters. Savannah Lamar was not a quiet fishing village. It was a commercial artery. When it fell, trade routes shifted, merchants relocated, architectural standards changed, insurance risk calculations transformed. Coastal vulnerability became real. The hurricane didn't just destroy buildings, it forced Jamaica to rethink where and how it builds power. The sea rejected a city, and Jamaica adjusted. That's why it made this list. The industrial gamble Clarendon, 1768. When Clarendon installed a steam engine for sugar processing, it was not just a matter of technological enthusiasm. It was a gamble. Steam increased output. It intensified plantation dominance. It prolonged Jamaica's economic centrality in the sugar trade. Without that acceleration, Jamaica's global economic footprint might have faded sooner. Industrial choices shaped social reality. One parish helped extend an era. A parish designed differently Manchester, 1814. Manchester was carved out not for conquest, but comfort. It was created as a cooler refuge for planters and retirees who couldn't survive the coast. That decision shaped migration patterns. Mandeville became socially distinct, a parish that was engineered for climate-altered social geography. Not all parish decisions were explosive. Some were deliberate, but they still redirected Jamaica's development as Manchester did. Disaster built the capital Kingston and St. Andrew, post-1692. When Port Royal sank in 1692, it was called one of the wickedest cities on earth. The earthquake destroyed it. But from that destruction rose Kingston, built deliberately, organized differently, electrified in 1892, earlier than many global cities. Disaster created modernization, and modernization shaped the Jamaica we recognize today. Bonus facts. 1. If Portland's mountainous rainfall zones had not protected maroon autonomy, British consolidation may have tightened sooner. 2. If St. Elizabeth's agricultural dominance had collapsed earlier, food security patterns could have shifted island-wide. 3. If Hanover had been named differently, colonial symbolism in Western Jamaica may have reflected a different royal allegiance. 4. If Rio Minho flooding had permanently isolated sections of Clarendon beyond recovery, settlement patterns might look radically different today. Jamaica is not just 14 parishes. It has 14 pressure points, moments where history leaned forward and something decided our direction. Spain failed at Rio Nuevo. The British could not flatten the cockpit country. Sam Sharp shook London. Frome ignited a political awakening. Savannah Lamar rebuilt. Kingston rose from ruin. Manchester redefined settlement. Clarendon gambled on industry. These weren't random events. They were parish decisions, and they shaped Jamaica. So now we are asking you, which parish moment had the biggest impact on who we are today? Defend your parish in the comments, and please subscribe to this channel, Impacting Jamaica, because this island still has chapters we haven't uncovered. Victory belongs to those who remember.